Welcome at the Triple Threat Podcast, and we have the final division of the NFL. I'm recording this at 11:32 on Sunday, right before the game start, to try to get this uploaded as fast as I can. Maybe for 4 of the 4 o'clock games, but it's gonna be close. So I'm just gonna make sure right now I have this for you. This is 100% legit. This is my actual predictions. So I have the NFC West. This is the best division in football. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is the best division from 1 to 4. So this is going to be interesting to see. The only division that rivals this for talent is NFC South, or maybe AFC West. But I think the AFC West is a little bit far behind. They need a little bit more development to do. But this division is stacked, and I've got a surprise for you guys. So let's start it off with the last place team. I have the Los Angeles Rams. And that's a little bit surprising because they won the Super Bowl only 2 years ago. So having them as the last place team in the division, finishing at a measly 7-9, it's a little bit of a harsh reality for them. And I'll go through my reasons for this. I'll start off with the most obvious one: offensive line. Let me read out their offensive line. Andrew Whitworth, a 38-year-old left tackle who had the worst year in his career since 2008. Then at left guard, you have Joseph Noteboom, who had a PFF grade of 39 and ranked as the dead last guard in the entire NFL. Then at center, you traded for Austin Blythe, who ranked as the dead last center in the entire NFL. And then you have Austin Corbett, who ranked as the 66th guard in the league. Then at right tackle, you have Rob Havenstein, who rated as the 74th tackle in the league. For a very run-heavy offense with Sean McVay, a zone running scheme that requires athleticism, which your best tackle is 38 and does not have much left of. He can barely move his knees, you saw in Hard Knocks. That's going to be a problem. Todd Gurley was able to do it because he's just Todd Gurley. That's a special player. We're bringing in Cam Akers, who is good with a bad offensive line. 1,600 yards at the statistically worst offensive line football, or college football, I think, should help. But you're not starting in week 1. You're going to have Malcolm Brown there. And you have 3 good receivers: Kupp, Van Jefferson, and Robert Woods. But do you have time for Jared Goff? If Jared Goff has pressure, is he going to be able to be that same quarterback? Their defensive line is still great. Donald, Brockers, Floyd, and Abana Akinwaro. I really like that defensive line front. You've got good corners: Ramsey, Hill. I mean, I'm a little bit lower on Troy Hill, but he played well last season. They lost their good slot corner, so David Long's probably going to play the slot this year. Their linebackers are dreadful. It's probably going to be Kenny Young, who they got in the Marcus Peters trade, who did not play well last season. And then Micah Kaiser, who was a 5th-round pick last season. Not inspiring at all. John Johnson had a bad year, but I think he's still a great player. Was hurt, only played 6 games last year. And then Taylor Rapp, I think he's going to take a big step this year, but still not the best secondary in the league. But I just think that this offensive line is just so dreadful. And in a division where you have Chandler Jones, you have the San Francisco Monsters: Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, and D Ford, they're going to get destroyed both games. There's just no chance that you can get close in those games. So I really have concerns. And then Jared Goff, I just don't think is a very good quarterback. I don't think he's going to be very good under pressure. I don't think he's very accurate. I don't think he has a very good personality to lead a team in the locker room. And they don't really have a leader like that. Whitworth is probably their best leader. So I worry about the chemistry in the locker room. They've got good skill positions. I just don't see how this team can win 9 games with the worst offensive line I think I've ever seen. It is dreadful. Like, I saw Houston on Thursday night, and they got manhandled, but that's an exponentially better offensive line than this group. So I really worry with this offensive line. I don't think we're going to run the ball. That won't open up the play action for them. And this offense is really predicated on play action. And if the defense doesn't fight on play action, they're going to be a lot less effective on offense. So that's going to be a really, really, really big loss for them. Bringing in Leonard Floyd was a decent addition. I would probably plays linebacker more than he does play outside defensive end because they need linebackers more. But that's just my opinion. Maybe they should probably bring Taylor Rapp down to play linebacker. If being in all honesty here, their offseason wasn't great. They lost Eric Weddle, Clay Matthews. Their biggest off Blake Bortles. They brought in Ace Robinson. I thought that was a really good pickup. They brought in Leonard Floyd. They brought back Michael Brockers. They lost Corey Littleton as their best linebacker. They lost Dante Fowler, the second best defensive lineman. They lost their best slot corner. They lost their best running back. They lost their kicker, and that's a big blow. I don't even know why they cut Greg Zuerlein, Greg the Leg. So you look at their current kicker status. I just don't know why they cut Greg Zuerlein, who's one of the best kickers in the league, for Samuel Sloman, a 7th-round pick out of Miami of Ohio. Is he better than Greg the Leg, who had that clutch field goals against the Saints in the NFC Championship game? One of the best kickers in the league, and they just cut him. Another reason why they Dallas is going to be great, because they have a great kicker now in Greg the Leg. So that didn't make much sense to me. So I just can't see the team winning much games. Look at their strength of schedule. It's pretty tough. It's the 26th toughest in the league. It's considerably much the toughest in the entire division. The closest team behind them is going to be Arizona, tied 16th. So they're miles the hardest schedule in the entire division. And I just think that the team's overconfident. A lot of people think the team's going to win the division. They'll bounce back up to being where they were, but I just don't see it happening. So let's move on to their draft, because their draft was very interesting. So they drafted Cam Akers. I think he's the second best running back in this draft class. I love him. I hate that he went here. He should not have to suffer behind a terrible offensive line again. But they could with Sean McVay. Sean McVay will get the most out of him, but I just don't think that's a very good pickup. I drafted him in my Left Go Fantasy League. So the league I'm in with Bleach Report. So I drafted him there. I have faith in him. I think I have him in 2 leagues, but I just behind this offensive line, it's going to be tough again. It's going to be tough sledding for him. He's used to it, but that's how the cookie crumbles for him. But the more egregious thing, they just didn't drop offensive line to the 7th round. Their next pick, Van Jefferson. I love Van Jefferson. I think he's an incredible player. He did really well against Derek Stingley. He's a great slot quarterback. He's got great route running. I think he's a great player. I would love to see him on any team besides being a third receiver on this offense. I think he'll still be good on this offense. They'll run a lot of personnel, but they might run a little bit 21, but I'm not sure there. But Van Jefferson, they'll get on the field. They'll play well. But they had Josh Jones on the board. Josh Jones, Matt Peart, Ben Barch. They had even Ezra Cleveland was available, and they passed on all those guys to get Van Jefferson because apparently offensive line just isn't a problem. Then they have Terrell Lewis, who didn't even touch the field because he's got 2 microfractures in his patella, I think. May not take the field ever. Also had COVID, who wasn't able to practice with the team at the beginning of the year. Then they have Terrell Burgess, a quarterback out of Utah. That's a decent pickup there. Bryson Hopkins, a tight end at Purdue. They don't need a tight end. He could be a 3rd tight end on this roster. He won't play much. But I just don't think. So what's their greatest thing is they just ignore offensive line completely and just act like it didn't happen. They overpaid a lot of players. They won't be able to pay a lot of players, but that's not about their performance this season. I just don't think this roster being able to compete in this division. If you look at their defensive metrics last season, they ranked 9th overall. No way that's going to – they ranked 9th last year and still didn't make the playoffs. They had the 8th best rush pass D. 8th best. That's not going to stay that well. They had 17th best rush D. And Aaron Donald is a liability in the run game because he's so good at getting past the first line of getting past the offensive line. He creates a hole because he's already in the backfield. So if you just hand off the ball, they'll just walk right behind where the hole that he created. So that's what the Belichick did in the Super Bowl. They double-teamed Brockers, and they were double-teamed Sue, and left Donald open one-on-one on any run play. Just ran right behind him, and they had a great success doing that. So this roster, not good against the run-heavy offense, run-heavy division. Kenyon Drake, Raheem Mostert, Chris Carson. I just see this team being left behind in this division by other teams. So next up, we have a surprise. It's going to be the Seattle Seahawks. But I have them making the playoffs as a wild card team. If you want to see how they do, we'll be getting our wild card or our predictions for the playoffs up either tonight after the games, because we're going to do that with Ishan because that's a more of a group thing. We'll be doing our playoff predictions then, and then we'll get that uploaded. If you want to see how I do that, we have 3 teams in the playoffs from this division. We have the Cardinals, we have the Niners, we have the Seahawks. So let's start with the Seattle Seahawks. So Seattle are a really good team. There are some concerns I have with this roster, but I've learned to overcome and overlook all of the issues on this team because they have one man, Russell Wilson. And I've always said, I think I had them missing the playoffs the past couple of years. I'm like, oh, they're not making the playoffs. This roster's too weak. The offensive line's terrible. The defensive line's terrible. There's no way Russell Wilson can go to the playoffs. And he does it every year because he's the second best quarterback in the league behind Pat Mahomes, and he'll stay that way because he's a great player. So any qualms I have about this roster, I just overlooked because they have Russell Wilson. So let's start with the offensive line because that's always the problem with this team. They lost George Fant. That's not really an issue. He was our 6th-string offensive lineman. But the problem is that right tackle, they have Brandon Shell. And I think he's not a very good player. He ranked 50th at all qualifying tackles last season. They brought in Damian Lewis at guard. I think Damian Lewis would be a really good player in the run game. I'll get into that at the draft. And here they have Ethan Postage, who is he ranked as if he qualified, he didn't have enough snaps to qualify, but if he did, he would have ranked as the worst center. But then you have Mike Iupati, solid left guard, and then you have Dwayne Brown, solid left tackle. So a decent group. They've got a lot of tight ends, Hostler, Disley, Greg Olson, and then I think they also brought us Stephen Sullivan, UDFA. So it's a really, really solid group there. They've got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf at receiver if they're going to go 11 personnel. They have a pretty good 3rd-string Philip Dorsett, or if they really want to, they have a couple of receivers they can really use. They can either use Josh Gordon. That's a really good pickup. I think Josh Gordon's going to be their 3. But probably David Moore or someone like that. They brought in Carlos Hyde as a backup. DJ Dallas has been really good in preseason, apparently. Or not preseason, but in camp. So that's something interesting to look out for. Chris Carson's back healthy. Rashad Penny's still hurt, though. You look at their offense, it's a solid skill position. They've got great skill positions. They got great receivers. They got a great running back, great quarterback, great tight ends. Below average offensive line. You look at their defense, they bring Quentin Dunbar, who was really, really good last season. I'm not sure what his current status is, but I think he's slated to play because of the armed robbery thing. But I think he got his case is reduced compared to his good old buddy DeAndre Baker, who is cut and could be in jail for 40 years because he's got 4 counts of armed robbery. So they bring in their biggest addition. They brought in Jamal Adams for 2 first-round picks. Hefty price. I would have paid it, but Jamal Adams, that's not going to affect their roster this year. This year, they'll help Jamal Adams. He's an incredible player. Probably the best strong safety in the league, and he'll demonstrate that. He'll be with Quandre Diggs. That's a really good partnership. So I really like that. Their linebacker core is still incredible. KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, and then they also brought in Jordan Brooks. The defensive line is a little bit suspect. LJ Collier's the rookie, played really well, really poorly last year. They've got Bruce Irvin on the other side, and then they've got Vincent Mayowa and Gerard Reed at nose tackle. So that was not a great run D. Look at their run D statistics last season, and they ranked 23rd. So not much improvement there. I think they're probably ranked 23rd again. Their passing should improve a little bit. They cut Shaquem Griffin, though, a little bit sad about that, but it does make sense in roster terms. They have 3 good corners: Quentin Flowers, Shaquille Griffin, and Quentin Dunbar. And then their draft was pretty bad. They always do this. So Seattle doesn't understand the concept of value. So they go off their big board solely. So say they have the consensus 100th overall pick on their big board at number 1. They'll draft with their first-round pick because they don't realize that it's probably still be available in the 3rd round. So that's what they did. Jordan Brooks. I was really high on Jordan Brooks as well. I had him as my 4th linebacker behind Simmons, Murray, and Queen. I thought he was right on par with Murray, actually. He's the most physical, incredible. He's just aggressive to a T. It's incredible in the run game, and that's awesome. He's going to help with that for sure. Coverage ability is a little bit suspect, but you've got KJ Wright and Wagner to supplement that. So it's a decent pick there, but the value wasn't great. what was really egregious was the pick of Darnell Taylor. Darnell Taylor wasn't even on my board for the first 3 rounds. I did a 3-round mock, wasn't even there. That's how all those picks was. Picking at pick 48 is so egregiously awful. I had to give it an F. It's the only F grade I think I ever. Him and Damon Arnett, probably my only Fs I gave. Damian Lewis, great pick. He's gonna be great in the run game. Physical bruiser. Will be great for Chris Carson. I love that pick. That was an A minus, B plus. DJ Dallas was a good pick. He played really well. Owen Robinson, I think Owen Robinson's probably better than Darrell Taylor, in all honesty. So I think he might come in over LJ Collier or Bruce Rivers at some point because I think he's probably a better player than them. And then you've got Stephen Sullivan as a really athletic tight end of LSU, but he's raw, very raw. So this roster is solid. They've got the easiest schedule in the division, I believe. So you look at their strength of schedule, and it's tied 11th, so it's the easiest in the division. And they've got a solid defense, a great skill position of offense. So with Russell Wilson, this team's gonna make the playoffs for sure. And in second place is my surprise team. Actually, it's not. I was drilling a little bit drama there. It's going to be the San Francisco 49ers. So that means I have the Cardinals in first. And I'm going to have to explain that one a lot. But let's start with the San Francisco 49ers. So the team's going to be a 5 seed. They're going to go 10-6. So this team still has a great defensive line. I think they smashed in the draft. We'll get to that in a second. Their secondary is still solid. But a little bit of that's covered up with their Seattle scheme defense. But there's a lot of Seattle beaters out there in the league because the Seattle defense is very commonly used. So teams know how to beat it. I think Richard Sherman's not that good. I'm not the biggest Richard Sherman fan, but he does play well. They still have Emmanuel Mosley. They've got Kawhi Williams. So their secondary is still decent. They've got Jaquiski Tartt at safety and Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward played out of his mind last season. The linebacking core is still great. Fred Ward is an incredible linebacker. Put him up with Quan Alexander, still an incredible linebacking core. The defensive line is still great. Bosa, Kinlaw, Armstead, Ford. 3 of those guys are elite. I think Ford probably be the worst guy in this line, and I still think D. Ford is an incredible player. Your concern is that week 1, they're not – Ayuk is questionable. I don't know if he'll play today. I don't know the latest status on Ayuk. Dante Pettis doesn't play well, so I probably think Kendrick Bourne's number 1 for week 1 because they just put what's his name? Debo Samuel on IR, so he'll be out for the first 3 weeks. They have Coleman. They have Jeremy McKinnon. Jeremy McKinnon's finally healthy. I can't wait to see Jeremy McKinnon in this offense again. And then they have Raheem Mostert, so they got 3 really good running backs again. They bring in Trent Williams. Their offensive line's improved. I think he's probably better than Stanley was. Joe Staley was. So this team is just as good as it was last year. Their only 2 really big notable losses are Staley and DeForest Buckner, but they replaced those guys very, very well with Javon Kinlaw and Trent Williams. They lost Emmanuel Sanders, which is a pretty big loss, and that's pretty much it. So this team is still going to be really good. Kyle Shanahan is still a really good coach, and they have a pretty decently schedule. They have I think it's it's the middle of the pack. They've got a schedule equivalent to 15th, so it's above average. By metrics, their offense was ranked 2nd last season, second in passing, 9th in rushing. Jimmy Garoppolo is still a good quarterback. He's a little bit getting too much slander for those Super Bowl misses, but still a good quarterback, a little bit too system-based, but knowing Kyle Shanahan, I think Ayuk and Samuel will be awesome, but they're going to be a little bit slow getting going. George Kittle is still amazing. They'll still have him. And they'll still be fine. So you look at their defensive metrics last season as well. That's their defensive metrics. They were 2nd in the pass and 9th in the rush. Offensive metrics, they were overall 7th. They were 8th in the pass, 7th in the rush. They were top 10 in both facets. That's really impressive. They're decent on special teams, 12th overall. This team's great. They strengthened. Their draft was incredible. Let's talk about their draft. Because Javon Kinlaw, A-plus pick. I think he's a top 5 player in this draft. I think he'll be on par of DeForest Buckner. And I love DeForest Buckner. I think he'll be their best D-tackle, Javon Kinlaw, this year. Brandon Ayuk, I was lower on him than most, but I am sold. I'm going to give it an A plus or an A because I know Kyle Shanahan thought he was the best receiver in this draft. Kyle Shanahan, former receiver, knows how to get the best out of receivers. If Kyle Shanahan loves him, I'm going to love him. It's like when Bill Belichick drafted him on defense. I would be like, I don't know who he is, but I'm going to love him. Like I was high. I like Cal Duggar, but Cal Duggar on the Patriots, John Uche on the Patriots, I like that a lot more. So I think Brandon Ayuk's going to be a star. Juwan Jennings, big physical receiver. He'll be great at getting the ball. He'll be their go-get-it kind of guy. Like if you need a first down, throw to Juwan Jennings. I think that's a really good pick in the 7th round. So overall, good draft by them. They drafted a punter as well, I believe. So interesting by them. But overall, they smashed it with the draft with only 5 picks. So same with the Saints, limited capital, but they did great with it. This team's still going to be great. There's no reason why they shouldn't make the playoffs. I think this team compete for a Super Bowl again this season. They might be back, but they're going to go through the Saints. The Saints are super tough to go through. They got lucky the Saints played terribly. Minnesota had that really impressive defense. They had that interior pressure on Drew Brees. But they're gonna have a really, really tough time making it to the Super Bowl again because the NFC's stacked, but they're probably still the second best team in the NFC. I just have a surprise regular season team at first, the Arizona Cardinals. So let's talk about this because this is a crazy pick. So Arizona last season on defense. Well, let's start with the defense. The defense is the big concern everyone has. I had to be convinced about this one, but once I got convinced, I was hooked. So you look at their defense, with their weighted defense, they were 18th overall, so big improvement after they cut Terrell Suggs because they were able to play their actual positions. They were able to play that kind of that 5-2 look that Vance Joseph loves. So I think that Vance Joseph is going to be able to get his people in the right personnel this year, and that's really going to help this team. If they're going to be in the right personnel, they're going to be able to thrive. Justin Simmons is going to be Isaiah Simmons is going to be the missing piece in this defense. Playing at Mike linebacker, he's going to be able to roam the field. It's going to be perfect for this defensive scheme. I recommend you go watch Greg Coleman's video of this defense because he can explain it much better than I can. But he'll be able to get the players in the right personnel. They get 2 new defensive linemen. I'll get to that when I talk about the draft. Byron Murphy's second year should be a lot better. Buda Baker got paid. He's still a great safety. Patrick Pearson's a great player. Offensive line showed a lot of improvement. They've got Kenyon Drake looked really good into the year. DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald. They've got a good blocking tight end and Max Williams, a really good run blocking tight end. Offensive line is still an issue for me, but Kyler Murray is a star. I think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback this season. Really do. Top 10 at the minimum. So you look at their strength of schedule, 60th overall. You look at their offensive metrics are really impressive last season, but they still have a lot of room for improvement because they were only 21st in offense last season, 16th in the pass, 21st in the run, or 23rd in the run. With Kenyon Drake fully healthy for a full year, that should go up a lot. He looked incredible in those last couple of games. This passing attack should be a lot better. They were 6th in rush offense last season. They were really good. I was looking at the wrong team. They were 26th in the pass. Kyler Murray's second year, I think he's going to take a big leap. There's not really many metrics that I can point to about this. You look what they did against Seattle. You look what they did at the end of the year, and they looked impressive. And this is just a gut. This is just my gut sense is that they're going to win the division, be the 2nd seed in the NFC. This is my one really, really crazy prediction. Every year there's one team that goes from first to last, and I don't see it happening from any other team. So you look at all the teams that finished last. You look at the Detroit Lions. They're not going to go worst to first. You look at the Carolina Panthers. They're not going to go worst to first. You look at the other team. It's the Washington Redskins are not going to go first to worst or worst to first. Jaguars, the Chargers could do it. Chargers are an interesting option to do it. Bengals are not going to do it, and the Dolphins are not going to do it. So that's why I think that this is the team to go worst to first. I've got their defense look much improved. They're playing people in the right personnel now. They've got Isaiah Simmons, who's an absolute monster, will fill a lot of the holes in the defense. They've still got really good personnel. They've got a star quarterback. They've got a star receiver. They've got a great running back. They've got a great cornerback. They've got a great linebacker. They've got an incredible pass rusher. It's 19.5 sacks, went unnoticed last season. If you look at their defensive metrics, their run D is much improving. And I think they did that in the draft. So let's look at their draft, because their draft was where they really thrived. So first round, Isaiah Simmons, A+. He can play anywhere. He'll fill any hole they need. Him at middle linebacker will be able to drop back into coverage. They're going to show a false blitz. They're going to show a zero coverage, and then drop back. This will allow them to confuse defenses really well. This will be great for them. I think this is going to be an incredible pick. A+. Defensive Player of the Year candidate, him and Chase Young. I think those are the only two options, only two real options. Then you have Josh Jones, A+ pick, 5th best tackle in the class, projected first rounder again, the 3rd round. He will be your starting right tackle for sure. Incredible player, incredible pick. Then you got Mekhi Fotu, Rashard Lawrence, incredible value at those picks. Well, not incredible value, but incredible need at those picks. They will probably be the starting defensive tackle duo at November at some point. Both of them are really good in the run. Mekhi Fotu is an absolute unit. I think both of them play really well. Evan Weaver, the interesting pick, not the biggest fan of him. And then Eno Benjamin will be a great change of pace guy in the backfield. Really love their draft. I think I really addressed a lot of their holes. You look at their offseason, they picked up a couple of interesting guys. They picked up guys like Chris Banjo, who I really like as a special teamer. They picked up Jordan Phillips, who's also a pretty good defensive tackle, but he has a lot of overinflated sack numbers because of his pressure to sack rate. He only had a couple, 50 pressures and 10 sacks, so he was really, really lucky to get those 10 sacks. He was really effective last season. A little bit overpaid, but still a good player. Devon Kennard was a decent signing. So overall, I think this roster looks like they're ready to push forward. And I didn't know what Kingsbury can offer last season, but I was really impressed with what Kingsbury did. He adapted. He was able to not run 10 personnel the whole time. Like, he didn't just run four wide all the time. He was able to adapt. He was able to play a decent style. They probably have decent receiving options at tight end, Dan Arnold. I just really love this team. I don't really have a reason why I have them picked there, but we'll see. So that will do it for our NFL predictions. This is the last one we've done. So I'll just run through the teams real quick. So NFC, last place Bears at 4-12, Lions at 5-11, Panthers at 6-11, Rams at 7-9, Giants at 7-9, Eagles at 7-9, Washington at 7-9, Atlanta at 8-8, Tampa Bay at the 8 seed, just missing out on the playoffs at 7-9, Seattle and Green Bay at 9-7, or excuse me, Tampa Bay at 9-7. Then you have San Francisco, last wild card team at 10-6, Minnesota with the 4 seed 10-6, Dallas Cowboys 3 seed at 10-6, Arizona Cardinals 2 seed at 11-5, and then New Orleans Saints at 12-4 winning the NFC. AFC Jacksonville Jaguars 2-14, Vegas Raiders 3-13, Jets 5-11, Dolphins 6-10, Bengals 7-9, Tennessee and Browns 8-8, Pittsburgh and Broncos missing out on the playoffs at 9-7, Patriots and Chargers and Texans fill up the wild card spots at 9-7. Bills win the division on divisional record, with conference record. The Patriots hit the same divisional record. Better conference record, they win the division at 9-7. Colts with 3 seed at 10-6. Ravens the 2 seed at 10-6, and the Kansas City Chiefs the 1 seed at 12-4. I hope you enjoyed my predictions. Let me know where I'm wrong in the comments below. We'll review these at the end of the year. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. I had an off year last season, but 2 years ago I had 11 12 playoff teams. So I'm looking to do another good one this season. I had a lot of returning playoff teams, but that's because with this season, continuity, experience, and chemistry is going to be really important. So I think I really valued that when I was doing my predictions. And we'll see how many I get right at the end of the year. So I hope you enjoyed. Till then, take care.